Roll. So how do you pronounce your name?
Well, the full name is Michaela,
Michaela?
but normally I just go by Shay.
Jay? And how do you pronounce your last name?
Mundall.
Mundall. What nationality is that?
So, funny story. My mom had friends of lots of different ethnicities in college, and one of her best friends was Jewish, and so she really liked Michaela as far as a name. It's actually the feminine form of Michael in Hebrew, so it's like Michelle is the French version, Michaela is the Hebrew version. So.
Is that right? But the last name. Where you from originally?
Again, complicated question. My dad's from out in Washington, Oregon area. My mom was up from in Michigan, but we've lived in Jasper, Tennessee. My family has since I was about 8.
Jasper, I did a renovation on the Jasper Hospital there.
Oh, cool.
What's the name of that? It's Erlanger, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's an Erlanger branch
Erlanger.
there. Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure.
And then we'd eat downtown at that Mexican restaurant. About the only place to eat.
There's not a lot of options.
Did you ever go to the Dutch Maid Bakery?
Yes, all the time.
Are they still open?
As far as I know, they live, that's up there. My parents live up there, Tracy City, just above Jasper. Yeah, most people don't know where Tracy City is.
Oh, I do. Well, because there's a Dutch Maid in Tracy City also.
Yep.
You ever eat lunch there?
I haven't actually eaten lunch there, but we used
That's
to
the best
stop in there.
place you'll ever eat, if they still do it.
That's neat.
Tracy City is 12 miles from Monteagle. And then if you go to Tracy City, you take a left to go to Grootley Lager.
You got it.
You ever been to
That's it.
Grootley
I
Lager?
have.
I built the doctor's office there at the four-way in Grootley
Okay.
Lager.
It's pretty area up there for sure.
I like it. Did you know that was a major what do they call it? Stagecoach stop.
I did not know
That's
that.
how Grootley Lager. It used to be 2 towns. It was Grootley and then Lager, because they did a lot of logging there.
Gotcha.
And it was most of the Dutch came there to work, and that's how they started the Dutch Maid Bakery.
Didn't know that. That's pretty neat.
So how did you get into snakes? Snakes is your thing,
It
right?
is, yes.
Do you raise them
I do.
in Cleveland?
I do, yep.
What end of town?
South End. So yeah.
How did you get to Cleveland?
Well, I actually went to school in Collegedale down there at Southern Adventist University.
Yeah.
And I really liked the area and found a job up here, so I ended up moving up here.
Are you Seventh Day Adventist?
I am. Yep. So yeah, so got into snakes. Actually was born and raised overseas, over in Asia. I was born in Guam. My parents were both teachers. And so over especially in Asia, a lot of the locals don't really know much about reptiles. And so if they find something, it's automatically, everyone's terrified and they want to stay
In
clear of
Asia.
it. I mean, it's kind of the same here for the
Yeah,
most part
yeah.
too. But my parents were never scared of snakes. My parents actually grew up in Africa, so again, it's kind of we're kind of from all over the place. But I'm 3rd generation missionary family actually. So my parents' family was missionaries in Africa.
Were they Seventh Day Adventist also?
Yeah, and that's actually my parents met over there in Africa. My dad went over as a student missionary. Anyway, so they were never scared of snakes, and most fears are generally passed on, from parents to children. So kids aren't normally afraid of anything. They just they would go run out and pet a growling dog if if mama didn't go no. So they're not usually scared of anything. But so my parents never passed along that fear to me. But when the locals would find a snake in the wild or something, they would usually call my dad, and so he would come and catch it. And if it was venomous, unfortunately he'd kill it, usually just because it was around people and stuff. If it was non-venomous, he'd usually release it. But once he had had control of it, he'd let me and my sister pet it and touch it and all that. And them both being teachers and very, very good hands-on type teachers, even if they did have to kill it, they would then take it to school and we would skin it and dissect it for, science class or something. So, I learned really, really early on that snakes aren't something to be scared of, just something that obviously you need to be respectful of, because especially over there, there's more venomous than non-venomous for sure. So I never really I was never scared of snakes, but it never occurred to me to have them as a pet really until I got into college. And then at that point I was like, I really like reptiles. Why don't I have any? So got a couple snakes and ended up keeping them hidden in my dorm room closet. So my RA wouldn't find them.
In a fish tank or something?
Yeah, at the time I kept them in fish tanks.
Would
yeah.
you just feed them?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I'd feed them. They only have to eat about once a week when they're close to adult size. So, yep. So I would feed them, and I had lights on the fish tanks that would turn off, on a timer before the RA came around and did a room check in the evening. So that was back before I knew the more preferred method of keeping them. But
what was the attraction to want to keep a snake?
I don't know. I mean, that's just because maybe they're unusual. Everybody has cats and dogs. I love cats and dogs. I've got those too. But, I've always been into stuff that's different, whether it's the reptiles or the birds or the, birds of prey. I've had birds of prey and stuff like that too. I'm a falconer as well. So, a little bit of, all the different stuff.
Do you do falconry?
Mm-hmm, I do.
You have one of those things on your wrist that wear?
A glove, yeah.
Glove?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go like that and they fly back to you?
Yep.
So you keep falcons?
Well, usually hawks in this area. Falcons are more for open area like the Midwest. They tend to do a little bit better where there's more space. So usually this area with the woods and the trees.
So a hawk will do the same as a...
Yeah, falconry is just the name of the sport, but again, it can encompass multiple different types.
Did you ever watch that movie, Hidalgo?
Yes.
Remember the Arabian guy he would send the falcon out to kill the other person?
Yeah, I don't know that you can train them to kill people, but...
But that must have been something in the old days that they did, or they wouldn't have portrayed it in the movie, reckon?
Yeah, I mean, falconry's been around since, of course, medieval times. Back then, of course, it was used more for providing, food for people, for families and stuff like that.
How did they do that?
So, as far as training them, or?
I mean, what was the point? What would a falcon do?
So basically, it's a hunting sport. So it's no different than going out squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting. You're just hunting with a bird instead of hunting with a gun.
But how does a bird know? What does a bird do?
So it kills them. It just, again, it's just they're hunting their natural prey items. So again, in the wild,
which is what?
With squirrels and rabbits for the hawks around here.
So
usually.
Instead of shooting it with a gun,
hunting it with a bird.
How do you tell the bird to do it?
So it's a long training process, but basically it's a matter of weight control. So think of an athlete. So if you just sat down and had a big Thanksgiving dinner, you're not going to go and want to run a marathon right after that, okay? You're way too full, okay? And the opposite also applies, whereas if you haven't eaten for 2 weeks, okay, you're not going to have the energy or the endurance to go run that marathon. You need to be at the optimal weight. You need to have that conditioning, that training to be able to go do that. Same principle applies. So when we're flying birds, you want to find a hunting weight. So a weight where the bird is hungry, they're going to hunt, but obviously you're not starving the bird. So, it's a fine balance. And it's a long process. You have to actually serve a 2-year apprenticeship under a falconer who's been doing it for a whole lot longer. Lots, of course, red tape with permits and, federal permits, state permits, all that sort of stuff. TWRA comes out and inspects your facilities and everything. It's very, very regulated, obviously because they are a protected species. So it's not something you can just take from the wild and keep as a pet.
How would a falcon know a squirrel was in the woods?
Well, so for hawks, so when we hunt, basically, again, once you have them at that hunting weight, you've already trained that bird with the relationship basically to work with you and to know that you are going to provide food. So you throw that bird up a tree and start walking through the woods. And then your job as the human is to make prey appear. So you start banging on trees and shaking vines and doing anything you can to get a squirrel to move or a rabbit, to kick out from under a bush or something. When the bird sees it, it's going to obviously follow its natural instinct, which, we trap these birds from the wild as as juveniles, but they've already been hunting on their own. So they already know how to hunt. It's just a matter of teaching them that hunting with us gets a whole lot more results than hunting by themselves.
But what's the glove for?
Really sharp talons. So they've got the feet are the business end. So that's how they catch their prey. So when a hawk grabs a squirrel or a rabbit, it's going to grab it with its feet, with its talons, and that's going to basically contain it. And that's how it kills it. So the beak is not like a parrot where you have to worry about the beak. It's the feet are the business end. So that's just to protect your hand. That's usually 2 or 3 layers of elk hide just to keep it from hitting your wrist, because it hurts pretty bad when you get a 2-inch talon buried in your arm.
Yeah, it could kill you, I guess.
It wouldn't kill you, but it could get you some stitches. I mean, if it hit an artery or something, maybe, but
In falconry, they have contests?
they do.
What would the contest consist of?
So most of the actual competition tends to be overseas, like in Britain or England or something like that. We do have meets here in the U.S. They're not really competitive in nature, though. It's more of a social event. So falconers will get together, hunt their, take turns hunting their birds, and then at the end of the week, they'll kind of give out game pins, and sometimes whoever got the most game or something that week will get a recognition of some
Will
sort.
the falcons sit on their wrist the whole time?
So different birds hunt different ways. So it just depends on the species. So falcons, actual true falcons, are going to hunt from what we call a stoop. So they'll be up in the sky and they'll be circling around, and then they basically, like you see on the movies, the peregrine falcons, they'll fold up and they'll just basically dive. And they're going to hunt birds usually. So they're going to hunt your, quail, ptarmigan, doves, stuff like that. Hawks will fly from tree to tree to tree and just kind of follow. So those are the red-tailed hawks that you see sitting along on the power poles. They tend to find a spot up high and they just kind of watch, see what they can find. And then there's birds like accipiters, such as Cooper's hawks, sharpshins, goshawks, stuff like that. Those will hunt from the fist. So with those, with say a goshawk or something, you're walking through a big old, open field, you just have the bird on your glove. When it sees something, that's going to take off after it. So it just depends on the bird as to what style.
Well, if your arm gets tired of holding it like this,
you better build some muscle up.
because you'd have to walk like you couldn't
pretty
walk like
No,
that.
you got to hold it like that. Yeah, they can get heavy after a while. They really don't weigh that much. Even a big full-grown red tail that'll stand that tall only weighs 3-4 pounds maybe.
Well, you are into the unusual, aren't you?
Definitely.
So the snakes, you just wanted them as a pet originally.
Initially, yes. Yeah, initially I just wanted them as pets. And then once I moved out of the dorm and got my own apartment, I just kind of kept getting more. And then eventually down the road, my husband said, you're not going to keep getting more snakes. I said, I make no promises. My dad always told me when I move out and get my own place, I can have all the animals I want. So it kind of grew from there. But it was a hobby that I wanted to start making pay for itself, basically, because it can get expensive, feeding
Sure.
large amounts of snakes after a while. So I started breeding and then selling the babies, and that kind of pays for the hobby itself.
Who buys those?
So actually, the reptile industry is very very popular right now, and reptile people are not like dog and cat people. So dog and cat people, most people who have cats or dogs are going to have one or two. They'll have 1 or 2 cats, 1 or 2 dogs. You get the few people that may have 5, 6, or 7. All right, reptile people, they start off with 1 or 2, and then they have 18, 20, 30, 50, 100. So they're going to have a whole lot more, usually quantity-wise, than someone who has dogs and cats, just because of maintenance. Snakes are very, very easy to take care of. As adults, they only have to be fed once every 7 to 10 days. So you can go for vacation for a week, and your snakes are fine.
You have to give them water?
Yeah, you leave a water bowl in there with them, but they're not going to drink the whole thing in a week time. It's always good, of course, to have someone check up on them and stuff. But yeah, again, super low maintenance. I have about 100 snakes and 3 dogs, and my 3 dogs are way more work than my 100 snakes.
I would be petrified to be in a house with 1 snake.
Have you been to a zoo?
Yeah, but that's just looking at them from a glass.
I mean,
right?
they're in cages. It's not like they're running around loose.
Do snakes have personalities like dogs and cats?
I would say more temperaments probably than personalities. It is species specific. There's some species that just tend to be a little more defensive than other species.
Angry, maybe? Did you say?
It's not really angry. It's more of a defensive thing. Just so people like to say snakes are aggressive. Snakes really are never aggressive. A snake's only ever going to strike or try and bite for 2 reasons. One is if you smell like food. So unless you've been handling rats recently, you don't smell like food generally. And the other is to defend themselves. So basically, if you leave them alone, a snake is not going to bother you if you're leaving it alone.
So if you're walking down the trail and there's a snake, he's going to sit. Do they smell you coming or they hear you coming?
Usually they'll feel the vibrations. They actually don't have ears, but they'll feel the vibrations.
Can they
from
hear
your feet.
nothing?
No. But they'll feel the vibrations from your feet as you're walking. And so
they'll see you?
Usually they'll be long gone before you even get there. And if not, then they'll try and hold still and camouflage and hope you don't see them. And if you do see them, again, generally they're just going to try and hold really still and hope you keep on going. And most, I'd say 95% of snake bites is from people messing with them. Either they're trying to pick them up or they're trying to kill them.
Stepping on them next to a tree.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you step on them and legitimately didn't see them and you just step on them, sure, they're going to defend themselves, just like any other
But they're probably
animal.
going to slurry off.
They would definitely try.
ahead of
Yeah, they're
time.
going to try and get away first. Yeah.
If there's a way to get out.
It's like any wild animal. A squirrel. If you go pick up a wild squirrel, it's going to bite you too. Any wild animal doesn't want to be messed with. So.
Do you have any snakes that are like you come up to it and it'll come up and you pet it like you would a dog, or is it?
Reptiles don't really, I would say they don't really enjoy handling per se. It's not a dog that's necessarily going to seek out interaction. They just tolerate it, so you have snakes that tolerate it better than other snakes. So I do have snakes that I can pull out and mess with, and I let my kids hold and stuff, and they're not a big deal. And then I have some that are a little more nerve-wracking when I pull them out. So it just depends on the snake and the species and stuff like that.
You ever been bit?
More times than I can count. If you've ever been scratched by a cat, generally that's way worse.
So do these, around here, would a venomous snake would not be something to be afraid of unless you're getting ready to step on it, or...
Correct.
Other than that, it's not it's
correct. And you said venomous. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. Most people say poisonous. So,
so if, maybe a dog would be more dangerous than a snake.
Oh, absolutely, hands down. I mean, if you look at statistics, the number of dog bites compared to the number of snake bites per year is not even comparable. I mean, so many more people are attacked by dogs. And even then, around here, what most people think are venomous snakes usually are harmless. 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a harmless snake. And again, leave them alone. Don't bother them. They won't bother you. I mean, I can understand people get nervous if they see them on their property and stuff. But keep in mind, each snake can keep over 1,000 rodents in check in the year. That's the amount they eat plus the amount that they would have produced. So you kill one snake, and that's 1,000 rodents that are left free to chew your wires and chew their way into your house and cause a problem. So they're
and
really
a snake,
beneficial
you're not
to
going to see it.
Exactly, you're not going to see it, and they're only going to come where the food is. So if you don't have a rodent problem, most likely they're not going to be bothering your house.
So they're not going to get in your garbage can. That's not what they do.
They're going to be after the rats. So wherever the rats are, they're going to follow them.
Mainly rats. Mm-hmm. Just pretty
rats.
much
rats and mice. Yep, that's the majority of it. Smaller snakes like
so they're going to be
snakes.
in the field.
Right. Yep, field, woods. Wherever you're going to find rats. Barns. Again, you can see them, a lot of them in barns, because that's where feed for the rats are. So they're going to follow those.
But if they feel the vibration of you coming, how far away can they feel a vibration?
That's a good question. I really don't know how far.
Like from here to this table?
Oh, easy. Yeah, definitely. Usually further than that. I mean,
so unless I'm running, they're probably not. They're probably going to be gone before I get there.
Yes, most of the time they're going to be gone, or they're just going to blend in and hold really still, and you won't even see them. You just walk on. You just walk on by them. But
that'd be just luck if I didn't step on them, I guess.
Well,
right?
as long as they were on the side of the trail. Usually they're not going to lay in the middle. They like to hide, to stay somewhere where they are more hidden. So if you're hiking, out in the woods, for example, and you're hiking down a pretty worn trail.
In other words, if I can't see them, I'm probably not walking there.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't see them, the odds of you stepping on them are pretty slim. I mean, again, it's, think of a mile-long trail. What are the odds that you're going to step in the exact spot that the snake happens to sit? Probably not super high. And most snakes around here, again, are non-venomous anyway. So I can't tell you the number of times that people have sent me a picture of a dangerous copperhead they killed, and 9 times out of 10 it's a rat snake, or it's a corn snake or something like that. So often people kill them and they think they're venomous, and I'm like, no, you just killed a very harmless, very beneficial, corn snake.
A venomous snake around here. What's the worst one we have?
So we only actually have 2 species of venomous snakes in this part of Tennessee. So we have rattlesnakes, so those would definitely be the worst. They're also extremely rare. I personally have never seen a rattlesnake in the wild, and I do a lot of hiking and backpacking and camping, and I'm looking for them. I've never actually seen one. Now, obviously, a lot of people have, my family has, friends have, and stuff, but I've actually never got to see one, which I'm really bummed about. I would love to see one in the wild. Mm-hmm. I get really upset when people kill rattlesnakes because they are rare. There's actually not very many left because people have killed them. And especially the big ones and stuff that are around, man, leave them alone. Call someone to come. Call me, I'll come get them, But don't kill them. I mean, there's so few of them left. I'd rather see them relocated if possible. Copperheads are the ones that are the most common. You're going to see those around a lot. Those are considered mildly venomous. So most of the time, unless you have an allergic reaction to them, or unless you're a really small child, those will not even kill a person.
What will they do?
They'll put you in the hospital.
With what? What are your symptoms?
And I could be wrong on this. I'd have to double check, but I believe they're neurotoxic. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're hemotoxic or neurotoxic, actually, off the top of my head.
What'd you call them?
Hemotoxic. So you have hemotoxic, which basically attacks the blood. and the tissue, and then you have neurotoxic, which attacks the nerves. I want to say, I don't even know, but I have to look it up. I'm going to probably say the wrong thing. But again, either way, it's not going to be a fatal response, again, unless you have that allergic reaction.
What do they treat you with?
Crofab is kind of the standard go-to. It's the kind of the coverall anti-venom for the most part.
Does it handle neuro and the other?
I think so. You're getting kind of outside my realm of expertise. I don't deal with venomous. We actually can't have venomous snakes in Tennessee, so I just haven't dealt with venomous a lot. I would love to learn. I keep hoping one of these days I'll, get to work with a zoo or
so.
So
only two snakes around here. Would one of them is extremely rare, and the other one you can get treated. How soon do you need to be treated?
I mean, with anything, you should always go immediately. Go.
I mean, 2 hours.
I mean, as soon as you can get to the ER. I mean, because again, you don't know what your reaction is going to be. You don't know if you're going to have an allergic reaction or or what. So it's always better to be on the safe side. Go straight to the emergency room, in case. And then, obviously they can treat you for both rattlesnake and and copperhead bites. The rattlesnake one again is going to be the doozy. That one's you may lose a finger or two or something in the process, but.
Would you have to know which one you had to tell the doctor?
Not generally. Again, they can treat you kind of with the coverall, anti-venom generally. But it's usually helpful if you can. I mean, definitely don't try and catch it to take it with you and put yourself in more danger. But, if you happen to know what it was, that is helpful.
I've heard that rattlesnakes, the rattlers, are almost going away. Have you heard that?
I have not heard that.
That the rattlesnakes now don't have the long rattlers.
So basically what happens with the rattles is, so as a snake grows, it sheds its skin. So every time it sheds its skin, a rattlesnake gets a new what they call a button on their rattle. So basically, while you can't necessarily tell the age because they can shed multiple times a year, you can tell, approximately a younger snake from an older snake. So now that being said, of course, like you mentioned, they can also snap off and break off their tail as well. But if you got one that's got a really nice intact rattle on its tail, you can, estimate maybe about how old the snake is. So it depends again on how fast they're growing, how much they eat as to how fast they shed. So some of my baby snakes shed every month. Then as they get bigger, they may shed every 2 to 3, 4 months or something like that. So if you've got a snake that's got a rattle that's that long with 15 buttons on it, safe to assume that snake's at least 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe years old, something like that. If it's only got 1 or 2 little buttons, it's probably young, or maybe it broke off. It just kind of depends at the rate that they grow.
What's in it that rattles? Causes it to rattle?
So, again, not my area of expertise here, but I believe it's a bony structure. So I think, as I recall, there's like a bone that goes up the center, and then the other one's just kind of balanced on top almost. They're just kind of just loosely layered, and so when it rattles, they'll just kind of basically clatter against each other.
And that's supposed to scare the other
It's a warning, yeah. And it's a warning more for predators than anything else. So basically, a rattlesnake generally is not going to bite until it has warned you, for the most part. Again, granted, you step on it, it's probably still going to bite you.
What about a rabbit? What about a mice? It wouldn't rattle for a mice.
No, we're not going to rattle for prey items, just for predatory items, or things that they're worried about getting stepped on or hurt themselves.
I wonder if animals know that.
They do. Most animals know it. And the crazy thing is most animals are actually pretty immune to the venom. It's not going to kill most animals. Even, for example, my birds of prey that I fly. I've had birds of prey that have gotten bit by copperheads multiple times. And again, this is a tiny 3-pound bird, and most 90% of the time they don't die from it. They recover fine. The leg will swell up for a day or two, and then it heals up and they're fine. So a lot of animals are actually pretty immune to it. We had a horse one time when I was a kid that got bit by a rattlesnake right on the nose, and it swelled up. He had a hard time breathing for a little while, but the vet said he'll be fine. He's good.
So the body, nature takes care of so much of this.
It
takes care of the rattlesnake. It takes care of the horse. It takes care of the rabbit too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In the Bible, when it talks about Adam and Eve and the snake, what's your theory on that? Was the snake actually on 2 feet?
I don't think so. No, I think it was honestly more of a dragon type thing. Because it talks about the snake being the most beautiful creature. I think it was winged and beautiful, and I think it was one of these gorgeous. I really do. I think that's almost where the dragon legends came from. It's kind of that sort of thing.
Because the snake, it said it was standing up. But didn't the Bible say it was standing up?
I don't think so.
It said that it talked Eve into eating the apple, and then God said, you will crawl on your belly from now on.
Yep. And a lot of people use that story to justify, why snakes are bad. But then I like to,
Yeah, that's where they got it.
right. And I like to turn that around and I say, okay, well, if you're going to use that story, then we got to be fair here, okay? Because if you take when the children of Israel were going across the desert, all right, I don't know if you remember the story. It's not a super popular one, but there's a point in time where they turned away from God, and God allowed snakes basically to come out and start biting them. And so the people, of course, cried out to Moses, and Moses said, well, here's what you do. Or God said, here's what you do. He said, you put a bronze serpent, up on a pole, you lift it up, and everyone who looks at it will be healed. And of course, that would symbolize Jesus later on being lifted up on the cross. So I said, okay, well, if you're going to use the story about Adam and Eve and how the snake is bad, well, then you're going to have to use this story here where the snake symbolized Jesus on the cross. So, both sides.
Now, is that where we get is it because the snake venom is used for some medicines that we get the sign of the doctor snake?
That is actually where it comes from, yes. Yeah, the sign for the doctors, which is like the cross with the snake on it.
With the snake on it,
that comes from that Bible story, yes. Mm-hmm.
So what venoms would they use?
As far as
for healing?
Again, usually it just depends. In areas that have, for example, other countries, or places where they allow, other venomous species to be kept as pets and stuff. They'll have different species-specific antivenoms, and of course that's where you see the snake farms where they're actually having to milk the snakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, they make them bite the jar.
Right.
So the venom is to help other people that's been
Correct.
bit.
So they actually
is it for any other medicinal?
They actually are using. I know they're using copperhead venom actually for breast cancer research as well. So it's actually been proven to destroy cancer cells, and so it's actually become very, very instrumental in fighting breast cancer research.
How long has that?
I'm not sure. I know several years it's kind of been ongoing. I don't know what the current status is on it.
It's almost like they were onto that way back then.
Yeah. Very well. Very well could have been. And I know, again, I mentioned I grew up in Asia. Over there, they actually will drink venom as an aphrodisiac over there. So they had a night market as a kid that I loved going to, and you could pick out your snake. You pick out your cobra usually.
A night market?
A night market.
Is that like a bar?
No, it was actually think of like a street market basically. So it extended down several streets just with little stalls and vendors and stuff. But you would pick your snake, and then it would fight the mongoose, and eventually, obviously, they'd kill the snake, and then they would drain the blood and the venom, and especially men would drink that as an aphrodisiac basically.
Reckon it worked?
I don't know. Not sure.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. Let me tell you about Gobbles Automotive. They're on North Lee Highway, just past Captain D's. They're family owned, they're family operated. My whole family uses them. They've stood the test of time. They will do you a good job. Give them a try. They're no problem. A mongoose is always able to kill a snake, right?
Not always. It depends on probably, I would say, the snake and the mongoose and have.
Why is it a mongoose is one that can still kill the snake? Wasn't there a cartoon like that?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Remember on that movie, Blazing Saddles, they had the guy Mongoose. They called him Mongoose.
Vaguely. I think I only saw that once.
I always thought about that as an animal. So you think that the story of Adam and Eve with the snake, that it said it was a winged animal that walked, and that now that is the animal that now crawls?
I would say so. Yeah, and I think that's one reason so many people are afraid of them, because God did put that inherent fear of them in there.
Well, it said man will fear you, didn't it say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is why probably a lot of people do have that inherent fear of snakes. Plus, a lot of it goes back to just education. A lot of people just haven't been exposed to reptiles. They've just been taught snakes are bad, kill them all, burn them with fire, burn the house down, this sort of thing. The only good snake is a dead snake, and, it's education. It's a matter of, people learning that that's not always the case. And even if you don't necessarily like an animal, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a place in the ecosystem, So, I mean, I have the weird irrational fear of frogs and toads. Go figure. But even then, I'm still never going to, deliberately kill one. They have their place. They're going to eat bugs. They can stay outside. I'm cool with it. But it's not something that me personally, I ever really want as a pet. Everyone's got those irrational fears, and that's fine. The biggest
Some
thing
people
is,
don't like cats.
right? There's always something. I've got a friend who's deathly afraid of birds, so it just depends, and that's okay, but just because you don't like something doesn't mean it deserves to die.
Maybe the reason we don't like some things is it goes way back to something we don't even remember.
I would say so, or something even back to, early, again, think back, 1800, 1700s, way back in the day, if you got bit by a snake, there was no doctors and anti-venom, and, it was pretty much a death sentence. So at that point, you weren't going to stick around to decide whether it was venomous or non-venomous. At that point, snakes were bad because they could kill you, sort of thing.
Yeah, they just had to be, they didn't know, they had to shoot
right.
all of them.
Right, just shoot them all because, again, it has a chance of killing you. No different than, how people killed out, just about it made the wolves go extinct, and the, mountain lions and bears, and pretty much any predatory animal, that has a chance of killing us. We as humans have a history of doing our best to eradicate that, and then that's, that's unfortunate, but, maybe it's, one of those survival mentalities that we have ingrained in our brains from hundreds of years ago or something.
I wonder how copperhead venom would help with breast cancer. Wonder what the theory of that is.
I don't know the specifics on that. Again, I haven't done a lot of research, as to what exactly they're doing with it. But I think
and why breast cancer? Why not all cancers?
I'm not sure. I'd have to do some more reading on that. But something to do with it breaks down the cancer cells or something. But yeah, I'm not completely sure on that. But definitely something worth looking up.
Isn't it funny that we start finding out that this stuff that they knew years ago had some validity?
Yep.
Like the Bible, if you ever wonder if the Bible is real, go back to where it says people will fear you forever, and here we are, how many years later, and we're all afraid of snakes.
Yep, very true.
And they used to think that snake venom had some healing properties, and now they're finding out that it may help breast cancer.
Yep.
So it's almost like we need to go back and look at what they were saying. And when did they stop? When did they stop thinking about all that?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, you think about that. I mean, I think that's the case for lots of things, whether it's, herbs or, I mean, you think of Native Americans, they used to use a lot of, herbs with healing properties and, plants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And nowadays we're so stuck, it seems like, on pharmaceuticals, that, everyone's afraid to try anything natural. But it's like, well, hey, I mean, it's been used for hundreds of years. Try it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, well, you still got your pharmaceuticals if you need it. But
and really, pharmaceuticals are just a mass-produced, confined of the other a chemical version of that thing.
Right. Well, my take is, I mean, if I can find something that's in a little more natural form that works better, or works just as well, I mean, why not use it? Is it, if it's going to accomplish the same thing, it's not going to hurt me.
But if you study that stuff now, they think you're kook.
They do. Yeah, you mentioned anything like, natural remedies or, acupuncture, hydrotherapy, anything like that. Well, you're just one of those weird, weird people.
I had a friend of mine go see a acupuncturist here a while back, and he said that he didn't know if it helped or not, but it was the most relaxing experience he had ever felt. So, I mean, maybe that's...
Yeah.
That was firsthand.
I mean, being a Seventh-day Adventist, we're very into health and, and healthy living and stuff like that. And one thing, that what my family's always done is a lot of hydrotherapy. So hot and cold treatment, stuff like that is really good for being, for when you're sick. So even as a kid growing up, when we felt that we were getting a cold, like getting that scratchy throat or something like a cold's coming on, my mom would always have us soak our feet in super hot water. So you get it as hot as you can stand it and try and kind of keep adding a little hot water for about 20 minutes. Then you dunk them in cold water for about a minute.
Dunk what, your feet?
Yeah, and then put socks and slippers on, keep them really warm. And if you did that a couple times a day, it would kick a cold every single time. But nobody wants to do that because that takes too much time. It's a whole lot easier to go to your doctor, pop a pill or something, than actually put a little effort into that. Exactly. And so my mom, is in her mid-60s and she hasn't had a cold in years. I mean, I don't know. It's probably been 10 years since she's been sick, because she's very, very conscientious about stuff like that. I'm not as good about it, but when I remember.
If you put a book out on that right now, they would almost ban you.
Probably because everyone wants the quick fix. It's a whole lot easier again to take a pill or whatever than it is to
And
actually have to
soaking your
put some
feet
effort.
for 20 minutes and then soaking it and putting that's still within an hour.
You would think, but it takes a lot more effort.
I've often thought if you're real hungry and you eat and you say, "Boy, I feel better now." Well, that happened quick. So what if I had a cold or something that this made me feel better? It can happen that quick if I knew the right thing to take.
Absolutely.
But we can't go to Asia to get that thing. So it makes you wonder if that thing's around here.
Well, and a lot of them are, without going too far down the rabbit hole, you have a lot of, essential oils and a lot of, vitamin herb supplements and stuff like that. And of course, you do have to use caution if you got a, pre-existing medical condition. You do want to, check with your doctor, all that.
All that stuff.
All that disclaimer stuff,
Yeah.
But, again, if I can take, for example, I'm not to sound too kooky here and scare everyone off, but I do some like essential oils and stuff like that, because I found, so I can take, use some eucalyptus oil, for example, rub a little on my chest, just like Vicks or something.
It'll clear your nose
right
out.
up, and I could do that instead of having to take Sudafed, for example. So it's like, why wouldn't I use something natural, use some eucalyptus, all right, when that's going to accomplish the exact same thing as Sudafed without destroying my liver in the process. So, if it doesn't work, well, then I've still got the Sudafed. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to
or
that
take
at all.
them both. Maybe you don't have to have two Sudafeds.
There you go. Yeah, so, again, if it'll work, I'm all for it. If it doesn't work, well, hey, I'm all for medication too. Again, use what you need to, but at the same time, if you can do something that's more natural and a little healthier for your body, why wouldn't you?
The Seventh-day Adventists have always been on health. I'm not sure where they got that, but they're one of the only religions that are really go into diet.
You're very correct.
That is so odd to me that somebody started that way back. I work with a guy that's a Seventh-day Adventist, and he's 92, and he's gone to California because he's getting married.
Wow, 92.
He's 92. He's coming back Thursday.
Well, good for him.
Just bought a new house, and he never eats meat. He's never touched alcohol. He never eats chocolate.
Wow.
He never drinks coffee.
Sounds like my parents right there.
And he drinks they drink Postum.
Postum, I hate that stuff. Oh, it's awful.
I guess it's maybe what you get used to.
Probably.
But then I've got other friends that are 91 and they drink and smoke.
Some of it has to do with genetics too.
But I'll say this, they don't get around as good as this other guy. That's a fact I know.
So they actually did a Genesis study, and it's been a few years back, probably 10, 15 years ago. And they did a Genesis study on certain areas of the country and certain religions and longevity. It's a very interesting study. I want to say it was actually published in National Geographic at the time. But it was very interesting. And Seventh-day Adventists were the very top as far as longevity for a religious group, basically. And California was one of the top places just because there are a lot of Adventists out in California. But it was one of the top is basically the top religion as far as longevity, and basically they attributed that to the healthy lifestyle that most Adventists try to live.
You'd have to. If it was a true study, you'd have to attribute it to that.
Yeah. And that's basically, they researched, again, like I said, lots of different religions, different people groups, stuff like that. And
this guy drinks 64 ounces of water a day.
Good for him.
He carries the jug around with him.
Yep, and
and he's not ridiculous in any way. He's not overbearing or in any way.
Well, good.
That's just what he does.
Because some people, like any religion, can be.
It's just what he does.
Like anyone, you got your bad apples anywhere. So there are the ones that try to shove it down your throat, and that's never effective.
But they're more into natural.
Yeah, definitely.
Than they are to the. Not that they're not into medicines.
Correct.
But they're more into natural. Back when I was a vegetarian, I went vegetarian for about 15 years.
Wow.
Strict vegetarian. And I quit because I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
I just feel like that I needed meat. And I feel better on it.
There you go.
But it doesn't affect this other guy, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So I was born and raised actually vegan. So vegan and vegetarian, I mean, you know the difference.
oh yeah, he's vegan.
But yeah, and you know, vegetarian just doesn't eat meat, whereas vegan doesn't eat meat or dairy. So I was raised vegan simply because my dad was lactose intolerant. So we were vegetarian for health reasons. We ended up vegan just kind of by default. But when I got to college and got on my own, I love my eggs and dairy way too much. I can't give up the cheese. I love that. So I did the vegetarian thing for years, and even now I would say 90% vegetarian. I kind of cheat and do eat some chicken occasionally, but that's really about
That's
all I eat.
vegetarian, isn't that what they call it?
I don't know. I call it a flexitarian.
Flexitarian, yeah.
Politarian, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, I don't eat chicken more than once a week tops.
Well, I'll say one
So.
thing: you have perfect skin.
Well, I don't know about perfect, but thank you.
You sure don't look your age. You told me your age before you came in.
I'm 36, yeah.
Well, you really don't look 36.
Oh, thank you.
But do you think that that this guy that I was talking about, he's big on scheduling. He stays on a good schedule as far as goes to bed about the same time, he gets up about the same time, he goes out to eat Thursday nights. He's routine.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe routine is as important as diet.
It very well could be. I mean, I know there have been studies that have shown that, that routine and keeping your body on a regulated schedule is important, whether it's going to bed at a regular time, getting those 8 hours of sleep at least, drinking adequate water, all that sort of stuff is important, and of course you add in some exercise and you add in a healthy lifestyle, and you take all of that together, and I think it makes a big difference for sure.
I really think it does. I think the haphazardness of not having. If you show me somebody that's on a really good schedule, I'll show you somebody that's got a lot of money. You ever notice that?
Wrong. You're probably not wrong on that one.
Never fails.
Us poor peasants just have to work when we can.
Yeah.
So.
Now you have a day job, right?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Which is what?
I work for the Tennessee Highway Patrol. I dispatch out of the Chattanooga office for them.
So you don't stop people from speeding?
No, I'm not on that side of the radio. I'm the other side of the radio.
So when you dispatch, how do you answer the phone? Who do you get a call from?
So most of our calls that we actually get at Highway Patrol are usually transfers from either other agencies or other agencies calling in for a request for THP, or occasionally you'll get a motorist that'll call on the road, but most of those will just call 911 or whatever by default. But usually, again, it's an accident, it's a disabled motorist, something like that.
How do you answer the phone?
Tennessee Highway Patrol, Dispatcher Mundall, how may I direct your call? What's the nature of your call?
How did you arrive at that? Because it just doesn't go together.
So I've actually been in emergency services since 2007 in some form or other. I actually started out as a firefighter. I was a firefighter for 9 years.
Where at?
In Appleton, Collegedale area, Tri-Community Fire Department.
Is that a volunteer?
It is volunteer.
Volunteer, yeah.
Yeah, the chiefs and kind of the upper brass are paid.
There used to be an
positions,
auction over there, the Appleton Horse Auction,
really?
right around there, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, so I was a firefighter for 8 years.
You went out and fought fires? Mm-hmm. You wore the hat?
Oh, yeah. Did all that. I loved it. I mean, I'm a bit of a adrenaline junkie, so I enjoyed it. But after about a year of doing that, I said, I really like this, so I'm going to go back to school and get my EMT. So I went back to school, got my EMT license. And I've kept that up, so I'm still currently an EMT, licensed EMT. So I did the fire EMS thing for several years while I finished my degrees. When I finished my degree, my bachelor's is in education, so I couldn't find a teaching job at the time. So I ended up going to work at Hamilton County Dispatch. So I dispatched down there at their 911 center for 3 years.
How did you end up there from EMT, not being able to get a job, education? You answer an ad or what?
No, as far as the firefighting, my roommate at Southern at the time, she was actually on the fire department. She goes, "You need to come do this. This is so much fun. You should totally come try this out." So I was like, okay. So that's kind of how I got into it initially. But then as far as dispatching, I was like, well, if I can't find a job in teaching, I really like this emergency services thing that I'm doing on a volunteer basis. Let's see if I can find something in the field on a paid level. And it's pretty hard to get on as a firefighter as far as a paid department. And there's a lot of competition and stuff, and they weren't hiring at the time. So I went ahead and took a dispatch job, did that for 3 years. And then a teaching job opened up at that point. And I said, well, I should at least give that a shot. So ended up teaching for 4 years. I loved the teaching part, just didn't like dealing with the parents and the administration. So after that, I said, I'm going to stick with the dispatching. So I went back to dispatching, this time up at Bradley County, up here locally.
We're at the 911?
At the 911 center. And I was there for 5 years. And then I've just been at the THP job for for about a month now, actually. So it's a pretty new job still.
Did you like it there?
I do. I mean, I loved Bradley a lot. But this is definitely a nice, easier pace. The 911 centers is definitely very, very fast paced. There's a lot of work, a lot of multitasking, a lot of stuff you got to do. I loved it, but after being in this job for 15 years, I said, it'd be nice to have something a little slower paced. So I'm enjoying the THP where, the call volume is, you don't deal with 911 callers.
Nobody's in a panic.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody, but the instances are far less for sure.
If I was at a 911 center and the phone lit up, I'd panic.
Now you get used to it. It's like anything else,
Did you ever hear people screaming?
Oh, every day. You get cussed out every day. You hear people screaming every day. Usually you take at least 1 or 2
I mean, if you're in a panic and they say, what's your address? He's trying to shoot me. What's your address?
Yep, location, location, location. It always has to come down to location. The way I always tell people is we can send everybody. We don't even have to know what's going on. We will send the cavalry, but we got to know where
they're
we're sending
headed that way.
We got to
it
know
doesn't
where
matter
it is.
who's doing what.
We got to know where it is. Okay. However, the questions that we ask, there's a reason we ask those questions.
The 911 centers, they always say dial 911, but they don't. They should do exactly like you say. They should advertise. Give the
dial
location.
911 and know where you are. Yeah, that's probably the number one
Give
thing.
that and then tell what's happening.
Exactly.
Because nothing else matters.
That's why when you answer a phone for 911, you say 911, where is your emergency? That's the way
Right,
you say it.
yeah.
Now, TV shows, you see them say 911, what is your emergency? We don't say that. In real life, it's where is your emergency? Because we want to know where location is what's the most important thing is.
Oh, because I could be here, but the emergency's there.
Correct. Or
Good idea.
or if you're calling on a phone that it depends. So everyone thinks in the movies 911 can pinpoint your location. Well, that's true to an extent. It's not super accurate though. It can be up to half a mile away. Okay, so obviously, if you're out in rural Tennessee, okay, half a mile, maybe the closest house, we may be able to find you.
And everybody's followed
Right.
GPS, and it took you almost there.
Exactly. But if you're in the middle of downtown Cleveland and your GPS pinpoints you to a half a mile, that could be anywhere. In downtown Cleveland. So
What's the address of your emergency?
Correct.
Of the emergency.
What is the address of the emergency? So either know the address, know the closest cross street, what road you're on, what is the closest cross street, know a landmark, hey, it's the McDonald's on whatever street, something that can pinpoint your location. Because just picking up and screaming, he's got a gun, okay, I can't help you till I know where you are. So you got to know where you are and lead with that, because it saves a whole lot of time. Because otherwise the dispatcher's just sitting there going, I can't get you help till I know where you are. And again, while your phone can again help narrow that down, it's not 100% accurate, and it's going to, again, slow things down a lot. And then when the dispatcher asks the follow-up questions, the worst thing you can say is, just get him here. Oh, that'll make you pull your hair out every day. Please answer the questions. When the dispatcher asks you questions, help is coming. The other dispatchers in the room, they're already getting everything rolling. So nothing is getting slowed down by those questions. Answer the questions. You may not want to, but it's to actually speed the process up. The longer you argue with the dispatcher and say, well, just get him here, and scream on the phone, all you're doing is slowing the process down. The fastest way for us to get you help is for you to cooperate, answer the questions, give us the information we need. And things are going to go a whole lot quicker and a whole lot smoother. And we will get you the appropriate help you need a whole lot faster than having to fight that information out of you.
But now you've moved into a job that's a little slower pace. You're dealing with
other agencies
other
more than
agencies
the public,
that know.
Generally speaking. Now, some agencies will still transfer callers over to us, so we still do get calls from the public. Most of the time it's about...
Where is the place located?
It's off of Volkswagen down there at the Volkswagen plant, right there at the T-Dot building, so kind of that same area.
So do you ever work at nights, like in the middle of the morning? Mm-hmm. Who's there? How many people is there answering phones?
At nighttime?
Yeah.
So THP has a minimum staffing of 3 people in their center, generally 4 during kind of busier hours sort of things.
Like, what's the slowest hour of the night?
Well, I haven't worked nights with with THP very much, but as far as 911, usually between like 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., kind of in that area. It's pretty dead for the most part.
They say nothing happens good at 4 in the morning.
Not wrong. If the phone rings, usually at that point in time, it's generally fairly serious. I won't say always, but generally. I mean, you do get people that call because their tooth has been hurting all day and they decide 3 a.m. is the optimal time to call for an ambulance, but
But 5 o'clock, you got some people that get up that early.
Right. 5 it starts picking
3
up.
o'clock, you get some people that are out late and went to the Waffle House.
Especially on the weekend, not so much.
But 4 o'clock,
well,
it's just not.
Even 4 o'clock starts to pick up because you got people who go to the gym, really early before work and stuff like that. And some of them will be up around 4 and stuff. Or
But
people
those
that come in
people
for
are
early
crazy.
shifts. Sometimes.
Who would go to the gym at 4 in the morning?
Me.
You go that early?
I when I was working at Bradley and had to work the morning shift, I would go and work out. Usually I'd be at the gym by 5 most of the time, so I'd be up by 4.
Who's at the gym at 5?
More people than you would think, actually.
Golly. They have to take showers there before they go to work?
Yeah, they have showers there, thank goodness.
But they have to take their clothes to, they have to take shampoo?
Yep, gotta take everything.
Why not just work out at home?
Well, because I don't have that kind of motivation.
Is it has something to do with? I mean, you have to take a bag with a girl. You have to take more curling iron or something.
It depends on where you go. So I do Orange Theory, so it's actually a coached class, which is nice because it gives me the motivation.
At that time in the morning?
At 5 o'clock is their first class, yeah. And
This one over here?
Yeah, over here. Yeah, what is it, Paul Huff, I think.
What was it before that? Where'd you go before that?
Before that, I went to the Planet Fitness usually.
They're open 24/7.
Yeah, they're open 24/7. But I like Orange Theory because it's a coached class, and the coaches tell me what I need to do because I just don't know what to do most of the time in the gym. I'm just like, I have lots of equipment, not sure how I'm exactly supposed to structure this. So it is nice to have that guidance and a little bit of coaching and stuff. And so I really like Orange Theory, But yeah, so before that, I'd go there. I'm still trying to figure out the optimal times to go work out now with the new job, but it's coming. We're figuring it out slowly.
Yeah, and it may be Chattanooga.
Right. They do have an Orange Theory, location down there that's probably a little bit closer too. So.
Why do they call it Orange Theory? That's an odd name.
Well, the reason is because you actually wear a heart monitor, and the goal is to keep your heart in the orange zone where you're exercising, like you're working your heart, but you're not overtaxing it.
Which is what rate?
It depends on your age, depends on your fitness level, depends on a lot of things. So they actually, take your, weights and measurements and BMI and on your age, all that sort of stuff into consideration. Plug it all
like
into
your
computer.
blood pressure or heart rate?
Heart rate, yeah.
So what would your heart rate be?
Again, when it's in the orange zone, it's usually in the 120s ish.
That's when you're working out and you're really breathing.
Yeah, when you're working out, but you're not killing yourself. So you got like the green zone, which is okay, you're just kind of slacking off. Let's push it a little harder. Orange zone, which is kind of where you want to stay, and then the red zone where you're giving it everything you've got.
What's the one above that? You're sick and you go to the hospital, right?
Well, red's as high as it goes.
So why push to that limit?
So basically, it's like fitness. So when a muscle is exercised, you want to exercise it to a certain level. But if you're pushing that muscle beyond that level, then all you're getting is toxin buildup at that point, and your muscle doesn't actually have the chance to build and repair and all that sort of stuff. So there's an optimal. And again, I'm not a fitness guru, so I don't know all the details. Somebody else would be better about that than me. But there's a certain level that it's good to push your muscles to, but beyond that, it doesn't benefit you at all. So, you want to find that optimal range, and they're really good about.
There's a theory out there about that I've heard that if you work out at a certain heart rate or intensity, and beyond that, it's doing a negative effect.
Right.
But we wouldn't know that. Is that something we can't know without a heart monitor? Or
probably. I'm
that doesn't
super knowledgeable when it comes to that. So.
But that gets away from our idea of doing stuff more in the natural. Because you wouldn't know what your heart rate is in the natural.
But I guess maybe the tune, the theory behind, at least, if you're going out and hiking or something. If you feel that you're tired, then take a break, let your heart recover, But at the same time, you want to be, if you're hiking, walking at a brisk enough pace that, you're feeling like you're actually working. The way they describe it with Orange Theory is, the green zone is a pace that basically you could keep up, for an hour if you needed to. You're walking with your friend, you can just chit chat and carry on, and that's just a very relaxed pace. So pretty much if you can talk the whole time, that you're in the green zone. Orange zone, It gets a little harder to talk. You're not going to be carrying on a conversation, but you don't feel like you're dying. So it's kind of that pace where, you're having to work. You're not really going to be chatting with your friend next to you, but you're not feeling like you're about to fall out on the floor. Red zone is you're just, you're about to fall out and you're giving it everything you've got. Again, that's that interval training that comes in handy, so you push it up to that red zone, which is good, short term or whatever, but you want to back it down, let your heart rate recover, stuff like that. Again, I'm not a fitness guru by any stretch of the imagination, just kind of what I picked up from classes and stuff.
I was reading a book last week that said that you need to do what your grandmother said, which was get plenty of sleep, eat your vegetables, and go outside and play.
Absolutely, and I'm a firm believer in that, which is why...
That almost covers everything we've talked about.
Just about, which is why even when I was teaching, I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I never gave my students homework at all, other than to study for like a spelling test or something, but I never gave them assigned bookwork, because I'm a firm believer that kids need to go home and they need to go outside, they need to play, they need to be with their families, they don't need to be sitting there doing homework when they've been in school all day. To me, that's ridiculous.
I quit a school because they gave homework.
Yeah, to me, that's ridiculous. Even 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I think they need to be outside. They need to be able to play. Unfortunately, most kids come home and they sit on the TV, sit on the couch and they watch TV, or they play on their video games or whatever. Which again, nothing wrong with that in small quantities, but still need to get outside, get that fresh air, get that exercise.
And how can you do that if you're not involved in a sports thing? You could go fishing, or
you can do like my kids. I just throw them outside and go play. I'll watch you in the backyard.
Hiking may be the best thing to do.
Hiking is good, but even if it's just, again, getting out, do some yard work. Then you accomplish 2 things. You get the exerise and you get stuff done around the house.
And get some sun.
Exactly. Get some sun, get some vitamin D. Yeah. Get the leaves
How many
right.
kids you got?
Got 2 kids. Got a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, so.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. Let me tell you about Gobbles Automotive. They're on North Lee Highway, just past Captain D's. They're family owned, they're family operated. My whole family uses them. They've stood the test of time. They will do you a good job. Give them a try. They're no problem.
You're a very interesting person.
I'm weird. Get it right.
But you have done odd things, because birds of prey, snakes, a female firefighter. That's unusual, right? How many were there that was a female firefighter?
At the time that I was there, we probably had 4 or 5 on the department. So there was a few of us, but not a huge amount. But there's nowadays, especially, I'd say there's more females that do the firefighting thing. But like anything else, it is a little more male dominated for sure. But it's fun.
Do you have another area that would be of interest that's out of the normal?
Interest, oh boy. Well, I love travel. I scuba dive, so I love doing
scuba
stuff like
dive.
That. Mm-hmm. So anything involving animals. I love, of course, any kind of animals. So anything involving animals. I would love to go to freaking vet school. I kick myself as I look back. I'm like, I got a master's degree in education. I'm not even using it. I should have gone to vet school, but. Yeah.
Well, they told us vet school was hard to get.
They did. They told us it was
Everybody
hard to get into,
said that.
And it didn't pay well, and you had to work long hours, and it wasn't worth it. That's what you heard from everybody.
And you would get so wrapped up in people's pets, I would think.
Yeah, it could be easy to do, I'm sure. Yeah.
That would be really tough for me.
Yeah, it would be hard for sure. Like any kind of medicine, I always thought, it'd be cool to work with kids, but as far as, pediatrics or something, I was like, no, I don't know if I could be around, sick kids all the time. That'd be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, more. Oof. I admire the pediatric doctors and nurses and stuff. That's a tough job.
You have to be a different breed, don't you?
You do. But yeah. It just depends. I think what everyone's wired to enjoy and deal with. For me, I love teaching, and even now, I love educating people about reptiles. I take my snakes and stuff to schools, birthday parties, stuff like that, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Anytime I can combine education with something else I enjoy, whether that's animals or emergency services or something like that, I'm in my element. Like, that is the best of both worlds. I would love to do that full time. That's kind of what I'm eventually working towards. But it's hard to, it's hard to find a job in that field. Like, to get on with the zoo or with the aquarium, you have to have basically volunteer experience with the zoo or the aquarium. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm I've got a full-time mom. I've got, a full-time job, and it's an hour drive to the aquarium. I don't have the time right now, unfortunately, just to go volunteer. And they only hire from their volunteer pool. So to get into that job is just about impossible unless
you have to do it free first.
Right, unless you have former experience with some kind of zoo or aquarium. So that's the hard part with something like that. So, that's the long-term goal again, is to make my snake and reptile business go full-time eventually, and then hopefully,
How would that be monetarily? How can you turn that into financial gain?
So, well, right now, it's a good side hustle for me right now. I make decent money with with doing it. I do a lot of shows.
What do you do though?
So basically breeding and selling reptiles.
So you breed them for what?
What do you mean?
Just to say this is a purebred.
So with snakes, specifically ball pythons are probably one of the most popular snakes in the industry. Ball pythons have basically what they call morphs, which is different color patterns. And so you can combine those color patterns and get more cool color patterns. So ball pythons can range in price from, a $25 normal up to a $50,000 snake.
You mean, like, I've seen some that look like a banana, exactly like a banana.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
I've got some of those. Yeah. So my snakes that I sell generally fall into the $300 to $500 range, just kind of mid-range animals. Anything. So
you breed you learn to.
It's genetics. Think back to high school genetics. This is a dominant trait. This is a recessive trait. When you combine, this, that, and the other, then you're going to get these combinations. So it's kind of that idea.
Where do you learn that?
Other breeders experience, lots of reading, research, stuff like that.
So the goal is to breed this perfect, beautiful colored snake?
Well, that's what the big breeders are doing. So the big breeders are going to work with all the new morphs that they're finding and discovering, and they're going to be working with the cutting edge combinations. I'm not there. I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in, in cutting edge snakes. So to make a living.
What do you mean cutting edge? You had to buy them first to breed them?
Pretty much, yeah, to get those new genetics. So, a lot of breeders again, you get the bigger breeders, that are breeding, they have basically warehouses full of snakes that they're breeding and again producing new combinations, world's firsts, stuff like that. I've got a friend.
Are they a new species?
Not a new species, just a new color, like a new color morph.
Just a color.
Basically, like a color combination.
Like a tulips. They do that with tulips.
Kind of, I guess maybe. With ball pythons, it's more patterns and colors and kind of combined and stuff like that. I've got a friend who just sold a $30,000 snake. And I'm so excited for him.
How old was it?
A baby. It's a brand new baby. But yeah.
So what was so special? It was going to be a different. It was
a world's first combination. So basically, it combined several genetics that had not been combined previously, essentially, and they were able to sell that snake for for a good amount of money.
Not species, genetics.
Genetics, right? Just color. So this is all the same species. It's just different color combinations. So it's all ball pythons, just different colors. So while I do breed some ball pythons, unless I was to get either a huge number or, again, get on that cutting edge of the new morphs and combinations, I can't really make a living out of that. So I kind of differentiate. So I also breed rainbow boas, and I'm getting into green tree pythons and black-headed pythons. So I'm trying to get into other species that aren't quite so common, because if I can kind of find my own little niche down here, where, there's not a lot of rainbow boa breeders, for example. So if I can get into rainbow boas, then I have a little corner on the market down in this area, whereas 57 other people breed ball pythons already. It's kind of harder to make a living.
Go the path less taken.
Correct.
Which is what you've always done.
You're not wrong. So I've got a great mentor in in rainbow boas, Ike Leitner. He's up north, and got a great batch of really high colored, high quality, rainbow boa babies from him this year. So, give them, 4 years or so to grow up, and I'll be able to breed those and hopefully, again, start producing some really, really good quality rainbow boas in this area, which we really don't have. Well, with rainbow boas, there's not as many color morphs as there are with ball pythons. So with rainbow boas, it's more of like a high red orange snake, or you can get some albino combinations, but there's not as many different colors as like there are with the ball pythons. But there's just no.
How big do they get?
Rainbow boas will get probably about that big, around about the size of maybe a small orange for a big female, and they can get up to 6 feet in length, but they're not a super big snake. Ball pythons it'll get a little fatter, maybe a larger orange girth as far as a female, and maybe 3 feet in length, 4 feet tops. They don't get super big. They stay nice and small, which is again why they're probably the most popular pet in the industry, just because they stay small, they don't require a lot of space, and they come in lots of pretty colors.
What are they just good for? Just looking at?
It's like any pet. What is any pet good for?
Are they almost making a form of art with it? As far as
Honestly,
something to look at?
It really is. It is there is a lot of artistic stuff to it, because it's, okay, if I take this morph, which is more of a pattern morph, and I combine it with this morph, which is a color morph, and then I throw in this other recessive trait over here, what combination am I going to come up with? What's the baby going to look like? So you can breed, for example, you take a female snake that has 3 genes, what we call 3 different genes. Okay, so 3 different colors in their genetics. Combine that with a male that, let's say, just for argument's sake, has 3 genes as well. Okay, so now your babies can have up to those 6 genes in any combination.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. So you can get everything from a normal, which is considered 0 genes, up to a snake that has all 6 of those genes. So, the babies out of the same clutch are going to look vastly different. Okay, so you may not have a single baby that looks exactly the same. They may look all completely different, but they're all from the same clutch. So it's kind of, it really is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So a lot of that is just, it's fun. It really is, because you're combining these genetics, and what are you going to come up with? So it's lots of fun.
And how much time is that?
As far as breeding snakes?
Yeah.
So breeding season starts in the fall. So usually snake breeders at that point are going to start conditioning their animals. So they're going to start feeding a little heavier. They're going to start pairing up, certain males with females and stuff. And kind of that's an ongoing process until eggs start coming, usually in the spring. So it's, you have to kind of pair them up. Usually for a few days, you leave them together, then separate them for a few days, feed them, and just kind of keep doing that. And usually they'll start producing eggs, usually in the spring. And then you have to incubate the eggs for about 2 months till they hatch. Get the babies well started on food, make sure they're eating well, and then at that point, usually you can sell them. So we do a lot of reptile shows.
Do you know by then what color they're going to be?
You know what they look like as soon as they hatch. You can see the color on them as soon as they hatch. They don't.
What if they have
color.
lines and?
Some of them do.
So but you wouldn't be able to see that till it got a little bigger.
No, you can see them as soon as they hatch. The color doesn't really change.
Oh.
Yeah, so the color stays the same from the time they hatch. I'd show you pictures, but
And these don't have any personalities to speak of.
I wouldn't say personalities as much as temperament. Again, ball pythons.
Do your snakes know you? If I walked into a room and you walked into a room, would they know you?
They would. They do recognize, I would say, people's scents and stuff like that. So I think they can smell what I smell like, and they know that I'm not going to hurt them and stuff. So I have a couple, I have a big Burmese python, and he, I can have someone else holding him, and he always keeps trying to come to me. So I think he recognizes that,
just like a baby or a dog would.
Kind of, yeah.
Or a cat.
It's for a snake. It's more of a safety thing. Like, I don't know this person, but I know that person, and I know that person's not going to hurt me. So I'm going to go over there with them. Generally, yeah, you're probably not wrong, yeah. So, yeah, again, I wouldn't say it's personality as much as it is, temperament. Again, just like anything, some are going to tolerate being handled, better than others are, So I have some ball pythons, again, that I can pull out and let my kids hold, and they're fine, and I have some that I'm like, don't reach in there, that snake will bite you, So.
Do you, now these snakes you're raising, they would not make it in the wild long, right?
No, not at all. They're natively from Africa, so if you let one go in the wild here, it's going to die. By the time winter weather hits, it'll die. So they cannot survive in this weather around here.
Because because of the coolness.
It's too cold. Yeah, it gets too cold for them. Yeah, we actually don't really have any pythons or boas per se in this area. We have the only native boa or python in North America is the rosy boa, I believe. Yeah, the rosy boa or the rubber boa. And those, I believe, are out west, as I recall. So we really don't have any boas or pythons that are native to North America for the most part. You get down to South and Central America, obviously, they're going to have some down there. But, most of them, again, are from South and Central, America, Africa, stuff like that, Australia, as far as boas and pythons, generally.
You ever have dreams at night that they've got out? You keep them in the garage or what?
They actually have their own building, so they have their own snake building. But no, I've had.
Do you have like aquariums for each of them?
No, actually, so aquariums are not the optimal way to house snakes. Most people start off with that just because they don't know any better. But aquariums really are not a great idea, not a good way to house a snake, especially ball pythons. They require really high humidity because in the wild they live in termite mounds, and so termite mounds, dark, they're humid, stuff like that, and that's what ball pythons like. So ball pythons do a lot better basically in a tub system. So you can either have racks, which essentially is like, imagine those little plastic dressers that have little drawers that pull out, kind of that concept. or you can put them in just a plastic tote like you get from Target, just with the plastic totes with the latching lid, and with the heat mat for for heat and all that. They do a whole lot better than that, 10 times better than they do in aquariums. Aquariums are SAP, but aquariums are for fish. If it's not a fish, don't put in an aquarium.
You don't have any trouble with anybody. If you wanted to keep something where nobody get it, that'd be the place to keep it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I have friends on the fire department that's like, if your house ever catches on fire, it's just gonna burn down. Well, okay.
How big is the building?
I've got a 10 by 20 foot building, so.
Metal building?
It's just one of those prefab sheds, that you get from whatever, and it's heavily insulated, of course, being in the South, and it has to be climate controlled, so it's insulated. It's got its own AC unit and everything.
Like
and all that,
what temperature do you like to keep?
So I actually have kind of 2 rooms. So my back room I keep a little warmer for the ball pythons, so it stays close to 80 degrees. They like it a little warmer as far as the ambient temperature, and they still have a hot spot, like a piece of what they call heat tape that they can get on just to warm them up if they want it warmer. The rest of my snakes, my green tree pythons, black-headed pythons, rainbow boas, they like it a little cooler, so I keep their side of the room about 72, somewhere there, 73.
You ever go in there and 2 of them got out?
No, it's very rare that any of them get out. I've had a couple escapees, but it doesn't happen too often. They always show up. Find them eventually. So.
In the room?
Yeah, they can't get out, so they show up eventually. But again, it's not super common. Most of the time, the worst one that got out was my tarantula. He got out somewhere, and I was like, I don't know where the tarantula is. Found him one day. I had a customer coming over picking up a snake, and she goes, oh my God, there's a spider. I was like, oh, you found him. Thank you. Walking across the floor.
So somebody can come down to your place and buy a snake?
They can, yep. I do sell snakes out there.
Where are you located?
Southeast Cleveland off of Hunt Road. So the best place is just send me a message on Facebook, Shay's Serpents, and we can be in touch. But most of my sales actually do at shows. So Show Me Serpents or Show Me Snakes is the show that I vend with the most. We're actually doing a show in Knoxville next weekend. So
how does that work? What time do you get there?
So the show lasts the whole weekend. So we usually get there for setup Friday evening. So we'll set up Friday evening, get everything, table set up, get all the
table this big.
It depends. I usually have 4 8-foot tables is usually what I use. I also sell PVC cages. My dad builds them and I sell them. So it's kind of a side gig for him now that he's retired. So he builds the cages and rack systems for the snakes.
Which
so
would be handy because we're just talking about how to keep them.
Exactly. So, especially for people who are getting into more snakes or, higher quantity of snakes, a rack system is a lot more convenient than having individual, tanks or cages or whatever set up. And then the PVC cages are nice for larger snakes or if someone wants to display their snake or something like that versus in a rack system. So we build those. But yeah, so I'll, take a van load up with a trailer usually on, Friday evening, set everything up. And then usually the show starts.
Where do you keep the snakes during that? Will you go to a motel room?
You can, but most of the time we go ahead and put them in the warehouse, in the building wherever the show's going to be at. Set them up on the table, and of course they have heat. And the people that host the show are really good at keeping the building warmer. They say, hey, we got a reptile show, we got to keep the building 75 degrees or whatever. So they're good at making sure the building's not freezing cold.
How many do you take on that show?
It just depends on how many babies I have available.
10
at the time.
or 5 or 20.
Usually I'll take between 12 and 15. Somewhere in there.
And so somebody that's into this would stop by and say, boy, I really like that one. I think it would go good with that. And
right.
I'm getting this for somebody, whatever the reason.
Exactly. Now, I'm a small breeder. Again, I don't have many. There's breeders that go and they bring 500 snakes. So I'm a small breeder. I don't have a lot of snakes on my table, which is why I really appreciate it when someone does purchase from me because I don't have the selection that everyone else does. I'm a really small business. So it's like, someone buys from me. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that.
How many will you sell on this? Like you'll be there, Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm.
And then you head back to Cleveland or wherever?
Sunday night, yep. So yeah,
because I had a hard time getting you to come here because you were on several shows.
Yeah, on shows. Yep. Yeah. So it just depends. It depends on the show. This time of year is not good because everyone's saving money for Christmas. So nobody has usually the extra money to spend on reptiles or whatever. Tax season, of course, is the best time of year because everyone's got that nice tax return and they have that extra money. So springtime is usually a really good season. Falls, winter, not so much. So it just depends. I tend to do better as far as sales of my cages and racks than I normally do on snakes, just because again I don't have the selection when it comes to snakes that some of the other breeders do. But I'm usually one of 1 or 2 people that sells cages and racks. So usually I do a lot better as far as those with sales.
What will you spend? Like you'll sell like $500 worth over the weekend?
Usually closer to $5,000 on a good weekend. So.
God, 5,000.
That's a good show though, so that's not average. But again,
and you don't have anything in these except
rats. Yeah, for as far as snakes, but those are usually, like I said, more cage sales. So my cages, there's a whole lot more overhead in cages. So I've got
Sure.
the PVC, and PVC nowadays is crazy expensive.
How big a PVC does he use?
So I buy the usually just regular 4x8 sheets of PVC sheeting, basically 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
And right now, I mean, that's up to $100 a sheet. So it's gotten crazy expensive. I used to be able to get it for closer to 60, and it's up to 100 now. So and one place I priced was 110 per sheet, and I was like, good grief, it's gone up and up
You
and up.
put hinges on them or what?
So the cages we build, it's basically a box, to be fancy. It's a box, and then it's got usually sliding plexiglass doors, so we'll put track on it and stuff with sliding plexiglass doors, put an LED light in it, and then they can we don't provide heat for those, so they have to go get their own, usually a radiant heat panel or something to heat that with. As far as the racks, it depends on, we did build them with different tub sizes. So you can have big 41 quarts that are 3 foot long by a couple foot wide for adults, and then you can have smaller ones for babies and stuff like that. And we run those with actual heat tape that you can hook up to a thermostat as far as heating and stuff. So,
but the people that are buying these snakes are typically breeders, or are they?
not necessarily. It's usually hobbyists, just people who enjoy reptiles and stuff. So again, reptiles are, say like Pringles, you can't have with just one. It's very rare that you have someone that has one snake. I mean, that's pretty rare. Most of the time, people are going to have 1, 3, and 15. So.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. Let me tell you about Gobbles Automotive. They're on North Lee Highway, just past Captain D's. They're family owned, they're family operated. My whole family uses them. They've stood the test of time. They will do you a good job. Give them a try. They're no problem.
What would be the breed of snake that had the most personality, that would be most like a pet, a cat or a dog?
I mean, one of the best starter snakes, there's really two snakes that most people recommend as far as, a good beginner snake. One is the ball python, just again, because they don't get big. They're very slow moving, so they're an ambush predator. So they're going to basically, we call them the pet rock, because basically I could set a ball python on the table, walk away, come back 5 minutes later, it'd probably still be sitting there. So they're really slow moving, especially if someone's not comfortable handling snakes, stuff like that. They're just kind of getting into it. They're a good starter snake because they don't move fast. The flip side is if you do try and put them in an aquarium, which unfortunately a lot of people do because they listen to what PetSmart says. Don't ever listen to what PetSmart says. Talk to a breeder. They always know way more than a pet store. But if you try and put them in an aquarium, usually they're going to go off food and you're going to have feeding issues and shedding issues. And everyone's like, oh, there's so much work. The snake is a picky eater, all this. No, your husbandry's just off. If you kept the snake in the correct conditions it needed, it would be fine. So a lot of times that's the issue people run into with ball pythons. The other one that's usually a really good starter snake is corn snakes. They're good starter snakes. They don't have the feeding problems that the ball pythons do. They tend to eat no matter what the conditions. They eat really well. The flip side with them is they're a lot faster moving snakes. So you have to be a little more confident in your handling because that snake's going to keep moving. It's something you got to kind of keep feeding through your hands. It's not going to just sit on the table and chill. So.
Have you seen that YouTube video of that girl sitting in the lawn chair and that snake runs to her and she grabs it? I don't know if that's fake or not, but how fast do some of the snakes get?
Not fast. Most species, pythons, boas, they're ambush predators. They're not built for speed. So they sit there and they wait for food to come along, and when it comes along, they grab it. So
like a supermarket.
Exactly. They're just going to sit there and wait for it to come.
What are a fast snake?
So probably the fastest, when everyone thinks of fast snakes, is like your black mambas or something over in Africa. Those are going to be fast snakes. They're going to move pretty quick. But even then, again, a snake is generally not going to,
black mamba.
Mm-hmm, black mamba.
How fast can they get?
I don't know, but they can move.
They move like this.
I mean, they'll crawl. So yeah, they can move pretty quick. So.
Because snakes have to go like they don't go like that. They go more.
It depends on the snake. Some can actually go almost perfectly straight. So it just depends on, a lot of times, the terrain. A lot of times the reason they go back and forth is because they're trying to get some kind of purchase. It's hard on a smooth surface like this, for a snake to crawl. There's nothing really that their belly scales can grip onto. But if you've got something that's like, like the road or something, it can pretty much crawl a perfectly straight line because there's enough purchase for its, for its scales to grip on.
Purchase.
Yeah, so the way they crawl is with their belly scales. So the back scales are little individual scales like that go all the way across. Belly scales basically span the full length of the belly. They're super wide. So the way they crawl basically is they spread those belly scales apart. They kind of grip the road, almost like a caterpillar sort of idea, or whatever they're crawling on. But again, usually they're going to go side to side, just because it looks like if you're going down a steep hill, you want to turn your feet sideways, kind of go, same concept. If you're going straight, you tend to slide or get going too fast or whatever. It's not as stable. So kind of the same concept. So they're able to grip better on whatever surface they're crawling if they go side to side as opposed to a straight line.
Now, if I'm driving down the road and I see a snake going across the road, around here, what kind is it? A black snake?
90% of the time, it's a black snake, yep.
And what do they do? Eat rodents?
They eat rodents. They're non-venomous. They're good to have them around. Leave them alone.
They're just going to the neck. They're just going to the
road.
creek?
Yep, going to the other side of the road, yep. Yep. Yeah, and speaking of creeks, here's something else. People think that we have water moccasins.
Yeah, I've heard that my whole life.
Nope, we do not have water moccasins and cottonmouths in this part of Tennessee. Now, if you go further west towards Nashville, Memphis, they will have them over there. If you go further south down into Georgia, Alabama, they'll have them. But in this part, this Chattanooga, Cleveland area, we do not have water moccasins.
Just not the right weather somehow?
Not the right terrain, not the right, just not.
Are water moccasins venomous?
Water moccasins are venomous, yes, but we don't have them here.
But not as bad as a copperhead?
They're actually worse than a copperhead. Yes, the copperheads are still going to be your pretty basic one. They're probably not as bad as a rattlesnake. I don't know. You'd have to define bad on that one. But yeah, they're definitely up there with a rattlesnake, not something you want to mess with. But what most people think are water moccasins around here are banded water snakes. They look almost exactly the same if you don't know what you're looking for, and they will mimic the behavior of a water moccasin. Again, they'll open that mouth wide. They'll try to get you to leave them alone. Because again, most non-venomous snakes realize that if it's venomous, you might leave it alone.
A banded snake's not
venomous. No.
He's just living.
Just again, they're going to eat frogs, toads, tadpoles, whatever fish, whatever they can find around the water. And that's where you may have seen some of those YouTube videos where the guy has the fish in the water and he's kind of flapping it around in the water and the snake comes. Yeah. That's a banded water snake, yeah.
What about those snakes that they blow the horn and they come up and...
Cobras. Yeah, so those are cobras. So cobras, excuse me. Cobras can't actually hear. Again, snakes don't have ears. So they're not keying in on the flute music, they're keying in on the motion. So usually you'll see the guy and he's swaying back and forth like this. So the cobra's following the motion. Again, snakes are very visual, so they're keyed into whatever that motion is. So
why is the snake doing that?
Again, because the guy's doing it, because usually the guy is moving, so the man playing the flute.
He's just mimicking it?
Yep, he's just following that motion. Mm-hmm.
Are cobras venomous?
Very venomous, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now again, in Tennessee, we cannot have venomous snakes as pets, so you can't keep a venomous species as a pet in Tennessee. If you get down in Georgia, you can have native venomous species as pets. So you can have anything that occurs naturally in the wild, you can keep it as a pet. It just depends on your state, depends on the laws. You go somewhere out like South Carolina or Texas, you can keep pretty much whatever you want. It just depends on what part of the country you're in.
Any snake, this black mamba, how fast have they ever been tracked as far as how fast they're going?
I'm sure they have. I just don't know how fast that is.
But they're supposed to be the fastest, right?
I believe so. I mean, that's just kind of what comes to mind when you think of a fast-moving snake.
The cobras. What are they known for?
So cobras are known for their hood. Those are the ones that that raise up and the hood spreads.
Yeah.
That's what they're known for. So again, they're probably one of the biggest venomous species in the world. They can get 19, 20 feet long. Even sometimes they just get super, super big. Those are the ones that kind of cause the most problems in Asia and stuff like that. And they're really honestly not a fast-moving snake. And they tend to like living around people's houses, which is why a lot of people die from cobra bites, just because they are extremely venomous. And
they strike fast, right? That's the big thing.
They can. Well, and honestly, it's more their size than anything else. I mean, you take a 15-foot cobra, it's going to have a huge amount of venom. Just sheer quantity of venom that thing can envenomate someone with is going to kill them, even if the venom is not one of those super toxic venoms. Compared to like some of the snakes in Australia, for example, that you get one drop and you're dead, sort of thing. So it's it's much more. It's not necessarily that it's more venomous. It's just the amount of venom that you're going to get from a bite.
So those in Australia, some of them, if you get one bite, you're dead?
Oh yeah, Australia is probably known for, Australians like reptile mecca, basically. So if you want reptiles, if you want to see reptiles, go to Australia.
It's not the Amazon jungle.
No, and actually, so my family went to Australia a couple years back, and I was all excited because I'm like, yes, I'm going to see reptiles and all this. I did not see a single freaking reptile in the wild other than like a little lizard somewhere. I was so disappointed. I'm like, no giant spiders. No.
So if I saw,
we saw crocodiles and stuff, but no snakes. Didn't get to see anything.
if I saw a snake over here, I'd freak out. You wouldn't bother you a bit.
I'd go catch it.
Wouldn't bother you a bit.
No, not at all.
None.
Nope. I mean, it's element of surprise, like anyone, if something catches you off guard, by instinct, you're still going to jump,
Yeah.
I mean, so if I'm walking down a path and all of a sudden there's a snake, I'm going to woo, but it's
Yeah.
more going to be, I'm trying not to step on it than anything else. I had that happen a week or so ago. I was walking down a path at my parents' house down to the pond, about stepped on a black snake and kind of did this jump trip, kind of stepped over it, trying not to step on the poor thing, so it wasn't that I was scared
Once
of it.
you came to your senses, to scare you.
Right, it just caught me off guard. I was like, whoa. And then I breed my own rodents for my snakes, and I have the wild black snakes that get into my rat shed sometimes, and they'll just sit there looking at them like a buffet. So either I have to haul them out of the shed, but I've kind of felt bad for them sometimes, so occasionally I'll feed them, be like, all right, here you go, you earned a mouse, you can have, now go away. So I'll feed them a mouse and then take them back outside and turn them loose, be like, all right, stay away from my rats. But yeah, I mean, they're good to have around. They just, they're good to keep the wild rats in check. Don't need to eat mine, though. I have plenty of snakes to eat those, so.
So if you've got how many snakes now? Like 100?
About 100, yeah.
So you could in 1 year you could get the perfect combination and have a $200,000 year.
Well, I don't know
in
about
sales.
that, but no.
If you got the right color combination.
Well, I don't. My snakes are not super high end, so at least when it comes to ball pythons, I'm not breeding stuff that is that expensive. So again, the snakes that I'm producing are, again, anywhere between the $75 to $500 range, again, which we call kind of a mid-range. Because like any business, if you are offering a more expensive product, your clientele numbers are going to shrink. There's only X number of people that are going to pay $1,000 for a snake. Most people are like, "Are you crazy?" Whereas the opposite also applies. If you're breeding $25 snakes, you're gonna have a whole lot more customers, but you're gonna have a whole lot more product. So you kind of want to find that middle ground where you've got, you can deal with some quantity, but you're not either losing all the customers because your stuff is too high end, or you're not dealing with the masses, I guess, because your stuff is super cheap.
So if you use Walmart or Neiman Marcus, you're where?
Yeah, Target.
Target.
Somewhere
Midway?
Somewhere in the
Not
middle.
midway, but
yeah, lower end of the midway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now I don't have the money to invest into higher end stuff. Would I love to get into it? Absolutely. But, like anything, it takes money to make money. So my business has taken a long time to grow because I started off with, 2 normal female ball pythons and 1 2-gene male. And I bred those, produced 2 clutches, turned around and sold the babies and reinvested that. So I haven't had my own personal capital that I've been able to invest. So I've had to basically, all the money I've had to invest has come from snakes I've produced and sold and reinvested. So that's why it's taken me as long as it has to get where I am. I just haven't had the money to invest.
You
So
called
it's
it
been a slow
clutches?
process. Yeah, clutches of eggs.
What's that?
A clutch, like a group of eggs. So when a ball python lays eggs, a clutch of eggs is usually 8 to 10 eggs average. Sometimes you'll get a big clutch of 12 or a small one of 6 or something. But 8 or so is usually average.
And you're hoping for?
You're hoping for the high combination. So again, you got those 3-gene male, 3-gene female, for example. You're hoping for those 6-gene babies because the more genes it has, the more it's worth. So, so a 2-gene snake, generally speaking, is not going to be worth as much as a 5-gene snake.
How do you know it's 2 genes?
You learn to recognize different, what the different genes look like. So, for example, if I'm breeding a banana, snake, there's a snake ball python called a banana color, and again, it has that yellow color. So if the baby comes out yellow, more than likely it has that banana gene. But then let's say it has an orange background to it. So I go, oh, hey, it picked up the cinnamon gene from dad over here. So maybe it's a banana cinny or something like that. So you can kind of tell, okay, well, it's got the yellow from this genetic, and then it's got the color from this genetic, but then it's got this weird pattern from this genetic. So you can say, okay, well, it's probably a banana cinny inchy or something, for example. So you can kind of pick up on what genes it has.
And then you can say, this one's beautiful.
Yeah, and then you can sell, hey, I've got this banana cinny inchy for sale, and based on these 3 genes, this is kind of the market value of this snake, so that's about what it's going for right now. So it just depends. Females are always worth more than males. And then again, usually the more genes it has, unless it's just a rare newer gene or something, or a recessive genes are always worth more. It's going to be worth a little more. So it just kind of depends. But
what's a recessive gene?
So think genetics. Think back to high school genetics. So you have your dominant traits and your recessive traits. So if mom has blue eyes and dad has brown eyes, more than likely the kid is going to come out with brown eyes, okay, because brown eyes are dominant.
Okay.
Okay, so brown eyes are going to be dominant. Now, that also does mean, though, that since Dad had blue eyes or whatever, that child is going to carry that recessive blue-eyed gene. So they're going to, they're still going to have brown eyes, like myself. Okay, my dad has hazel eyes or whatever, which is also kind of a recessive. So I carry that hazel gene. So had I married someone with hazel eyes, there would be a chance that my kids came out with hazel eyes. Now, my husband has bright, like ice blue eyes. He's got gorgeous eyes. Okay, my boys both have brown eyes. Because I've got brown eyes, dominant gene, but they both carry.
Their kids may have
right. So if they were to, have kids with someone who had blue eyes, there's a good chance their children might have blue eyes because they carry that recessive blue-eyed trait.
But wouldn't we all carry that?
Not necessarily. I mean, it just depends on genetics.
Is there any people that don't carry any of anything?
There are. So again, if you think the Punnett square, I'm going to think back to high school biology.
What do you call it? The
Punnett square? Yeah. So again, if you have like someone who is brown eyes, so let's say both parents had brown eyes, and then you have someone who is brown-eyed, blue-eyed, for example, like one parent had brown eyes, one parent had blue eyes. Two of those kids would carry the blue-eyed gene, and two of them would not. Now, you wouldn't know which would because they all four are going to have brown eyes, but two would have that recessive gene, and two would not.
Is that theory, or is that
that's science. Yeah, that's science. That's how they come up with any kind of, whether it's flowers or whatever. That's just genetics. So yeah.
Where'd you get this educated? Because you're educated, not just in snakes. You're an educated person.
Yeah, I have a master's degree in education. Yeah, so.
But I mean, you're intelligent though. Where did you get that?
My parents, I guess. I don't know. I've been lucky to have a lot of life experience. Again,
was it in Asia? Was you grow up in? Where did you go to grammar school?
So again, both my parents were teachers, so usually I just went to school wherever they were teaching.
In Asia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I went to school up through 3rd grade in Asia, though, but then, came over here at that point, when I was 9, so, so been to school over here, but I've been in the Adventist school system since then, so, private school, but, yeah.
Maybe it's genetics.
Maybe it's genetics, no telling.
So now, how does a person get a hold of you if they want to get a snake to breed, or if they want to get a Christmas present for somebody that has everything, right? I guess you could do that.
Absolutely.
Somebody that has pets or.
So the best way to get a hold of me is on Facebook. So look me up on Facebook or Instagram. Shay's Serpents is the best way to get a hold of me. Just shoot me a message through Facebook or Instagram. I don't really have a website at this point. I need to get one built, but I don't currently have one. But you can find me on there. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. So. Or, of course, shows. Like I said, we got a show in Knoxville next weekend, so, come on out to the show and come see us.
They don't have any shows in Cleveland, right, for that?
We're not in Cleveland. We do in Chattanooga. We actually just had one in Chattanooga, I want to say last month, I think. So, yeah, Cleveland's just not quite big enough to host a show.
Not quite,
no. But they'll do one in Chattanooga, Nashville, Knoxville. Atlanta was a couple weeks ago.
Well, it seems like it gives you a chance to kind of go out of town like a vacation too, right?
It's fun. And the reptile community is small, so all the vendors are going to know each other, and we hang out, and we socialize and all that. And, like I said, I love it even just for the education, because, you get people that come in, they're terrified of snakes, maybe their significant other drugged them there or whatever, or you get the kids who are interested, but they're not quite sure if they should be scared, and you're able to be like, hey, you want to hold a snake? And they're just like, whoa. And just watching that light, come on their faces and their eyes, when someone is able to experience something they may have never tried before. I mean, to me, that makes it all worth it. I mean, it 100%, like, that's why I do it. I mean, again, that's that education, side of me combining with the reptile side. I'm just hog heaven right there. So.
I believe you're going to make a lot of money at this because you have a passion for it.
I do love it, and again, like I said, hopefully, maybe a year or two down the road, it can actually become the full-time job. We'll see, that's the goal. Again, if I can get more into the rainbow boas and the green tree pythons and the black-headed python stuff that sells for a little more, for example, than the ball pythons do, and is a little more rare, then I'm hopefully that can, kind of help the business side of things. But we'll see, it's a work in progress.
My money's on you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.